Governor Ned Lamont, it's truly an honor, and I thank you for taking the time for this interview. So without further ado, let's start. Okay, so right now, many ICE agents are flooding into Connecticut and deporting immigrants without a trial or due process. What is being done at the state level to help address this matter?
It's outrageous. I mean, ICE is coming in. It's really bad in places like Chicago and Boston and LA, but it's even happening in here. We had a kid, taken away from high school in New Haven a while ago. So we've done a couple of things. One, I want everybody to feel safe going to school. We've designated somebody at every one of our schools to be the immigration advocate. If ICE comes to a school, they have to go through this person. They ask for identification. We say no wearing masks. We're doing the same thing in the courthouse. We're doing the same thing in hospitals. I'm trying to do everything I can to make people feel safe when they go to those venues.
So the second question is, Connecticut is one of the most expensive places to live. So what is being done to lower the cost of living?
Well, we've done a lot, but not enough. I mean, we've tried to make a community college for you in 5 years if you want, debt-free. Certainly a lot more support for colleges, bring down the cost of education. We've tried to do a lot more on health care, starting with drug costs, pharmaceutical costs, capping that so it doesn't go up quite so fast. We cut taxes, didn't cut them for millionaires, we cut them for working families and middle-class people. Probably the two biggest things we still have to tackle is housing. We're building more housing than we have in many, many years, but not enough, and that's driving up the price of housing. If you own your house, you're worth a lot more, but if you don't own a house, you're renting, it's expensive. And energy, which is one of the reasons we wanted to bring wind power off of New London, because the more energy we have, it brings down the cost of electricity for everybody.
Yeah, so Connecticut has slow and stagnant job growth compared to the rest of the country. Is there anything being done to create more jobs in Connecticut?
I'll counter that a little bit. I mean, our unemployment rate is certainly less than the national average. So we have a higher percentage of our people working. We also have a higher participation rate, which means people who are of working age who are more likely to be working than they are in maybe Utah, where they're not always working at the same percentage. Our economy is growing. We're one of the faster growing economies in New England. But to your bigger point, we're not growing as fast as, say, some of the states in the Sun Belt. So that's why we're making a lot of investments in new startups. We used to try and spend billions to attract a big company to come into the state. Now we've had more new business startups than ever before. That's a great way to build wealth, start a company right in your own neighborhood.
Yeah, so how do the federal government's actions affect Connecticut residents specifically? Is there anything that can be done to help Connecticut residents who have been affected by the Trump administration?
He's not making my life any easier, I can tell you that. All the uncertainty, the on and off. You mentioned what's going on with the immigration and how that makes people scared. For our budget, every day there's something else. One day he's yanking all the funding for public health clinics that we have all over the state. Next day we get that reinstated. General Tong, Attorney General, maybe brings a lawsuit, so we get that back. I mentioned the wind power. The wind power was about to turn on, and he pulled the plug on it one day about a month ago. We got that back turned on just yesterday, thanks to the courts. So we're pushing back everywhere we can to do everything we can to make sure you're safe and make sure we continue to provide the services you need.
Yeah. So you recently appointed a new chief manufacturing officer. What do you plan to do now with this new addition to your administration to help manufacturing in Connecticut?
Yeah, so for 50 years our manufacturing was shrinking. I mean, it was smaller and smaller employment, smaller and smaller piece of the GDP, our economy. A lot of those jobs in manufacturing was going to places like China. So that's turned around a little bit. Manufacturing is a bigger piece of our economy. We make pretty sophisticated stuff like helicopters, submarines, jet engines, and there are hundreds of companies along the way. So we have a new manufacturing czar. He comes out of that world. He talks to every single manufacturing company in the state and says, what do you need? You know what it often is? Workforce, job training, people your age, get them thinking about the skills they need if they want to go into manufacturing, or remind them it's a really good paying job, and you can get that job at the age of 18 if you want to.
Yeah. So you're very successful personally and have a high net worth. Many Connecticut residents are struggling with the cost of living, housing, and day-to-day expenses. How do you relate to those challenges, and what is being done to make sure your policies reflect the realities of people with lower incomes?
Well, I'm somebody that started up a business, so I pay special attention to, people in that world trying to start up. They know they go through tough times. They went through really bad times during COVID. I know the value of education. That's why we made the biggest investment in education in the history of the state. You're lucky. We have one of the best K through 12 systems in the country, and that gives you a running head start in life. I know how expensive life is for young families, those that are starting out. So we are making a down payment on early childhood education, otherwise known as daycare or Head Start. So for infant and toddlers right through pre-K, over the next 5 years or so, that'll be of no charge to families earning up to $100,000. That's going to save a young family, would have saved your mom, 7 years ago, about $15,000 a year.
So if you were to start your current term over again, what is one thing you would change about what you did?
Is going back 7 years? I'll tell you, the first thing that hit me pretty hard was COVID.
Yeah.
And I spent too much time waiting for the federal government to take the lead, waiting for the federal government to figure out when they were going to get us masks, waiting for them to tell us how to do vaccinations. I wish I had been more assertive earlier. At the end I had to go to China to get masks. Back then everybody was desperate for masks. Now they don't like masks, but back then they really wanted masks to keep them safe. I would have hit the ground running earlier.
Yeah. So climate change is a problem not just in Connecticut, but all over the world. What is being done in Connecticut to help with climate change?
I think the president has taken us backwards there.
Yeah.
And there's only so much the little state of Connecticut do. I can go with wind power, I can go with hydro, I can go with renewables, but if West Virginia builds coal-fired plants, the wind will bring all that acid rain right to Connecticut. But I would tell your friends, what we've done on the environment makes a big difference. When I was your age, you couldn't swim in Long Island Sound. It was so dirty, not even a 7th grader would want to swim in it. Now it's really nice. Back when I was your age, there was something called acid rain. We were all afraid that the needles were going to fall off the pine trees because of all the, smoke coming up from West Virginia. Now our forests are in much better shape. But this happens because we pay attention.
So what would you say to young people who want to get involved in public service?
Start early, just like you did. Right? You told me you were working for Rosa DeLauro at one point. And you're never too young, and in fact, you're more impactful. You know why? If you make a call on behalf of Rosa or Ned Lamont, and they say, why are you calling? You sound so young. And you say, this is why I'm calling, this is why I believe in this person, I think it makes a difference. It's particularly impactful. And that's how you start, you get in the game, and then, when I was a selectman down in my hometown, I thought I was too young. Then I looked around at these old guys and said, I think I can hold my own. Get involved.
So you have one of the highest approval rates for any governor in the United States. What is your secret to appealing to so many different kinds of people?
Be myself. Don't pull any punches. Try and be brutally honest with people. That often means saying sometimes, I don't know, or I got to get back to you, or I think I made a mistake here, here's how I can do it better. I think if people see your heart and feel like you're trying to go in the right direction, they cut you a little slack.
Yeah. So in many places, such as Maryland, 16 and 17-year-olds are allowed to vote in local elections, especially educational board elections. Would you support such legislation if it were to come to your desk?
I think so.
Yeah.
I see a lot of my age group, they don't seem to know really what's going on or pay that much attention. And you seem to pay a lot of attention to what's going on and know what it is. So I think age is sometimes an unfair barrier. I think I'd be very sympathetic to that. Why don't you take the lead on it?
Especially if, you're voting for your educational board member. I mean,
Exactly.
Do you think that they deserve to have a say in who's their superintendent
Yeah.
is?
I mean, right now we have designated spots on our Board of Ed for students, but you're saying, how about a full voting member of the Board of Ed? Let us get elected. Why not?
So Connecticut has some of the best gun laws in the country, but it could still be better. What's being done at the state level to make guns less accessible?
I think we have some of the best gun laws, but not everybody does. There's some consternation there. Some articles try and stay abreast. Then I generally have 4 or 5 meetings here in the office, you know, about the budget or things that are going on. Then go out and try and tell people what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Yeah. So, when did you decide you wanted to go into public service, and what made you decide?
I was a newspaper guy. I was a newspaper person in my elementary school. I was the editor of my high school newspaper. I started up a newspaper right out of college. And I used to cover Board of Selectmen and finance meetings and interview folks just like you're doing me. And this was a small town in Vermont, and I got to know all the players really well, and I saw how government made a difference in their lives. So I've always had this in the back of my mind.
So, I think this is the most awaited on question that almost all Connecticut residents are waiting to hear. So, have you made a decision yet on whether or not you're going to run for re-election in 2026?
I think so. I haven't said anything formally, though. You know why? Once you do, everything is politics. Oh, he's doing it for the urban vote. Oh, he just wants to get the suburban vote. I like to be a little apart from the politics, but it's catching up with me every day. So I think we'll be saying something pretty soon.
Okay. Well, that one's short. That's all the questions I've prepared for you. So, thank you so much for making the time. It was really an honor. Thank you so much.
You're great. Sam, thank you. Really good.